So let's now switch to a very interesting issue of great interest, not only in Greece, but in the whole Europe. This is the fight against corruption. It has always been a priority for all the governments I've ever known here and elsewhere. So let's call Mr. Giovanni Kessler, the Director General of the European Anti-Fraud Office of the European Commission. He will talk to us with the subject, Fighting Corruption, a Common EU-Greek Interest.
Thank you for this invitation. Thank you for this opportunity to share some views with you in these days. And thank you for being here in an economic forum, actually. You know, normally I'm invited in my capacity of the investigative body of the European Union in meetings or in similar forum of investigators, prosecutors, law enforcers, which, if I'm not mistaken, is not exactly the audience of today. So rightly so, actually, because we cannot talk about economic development, sustainable growth without talking about corruption and fraud. We cannot, we simply cannot. And why? First of all, because corruption and fraud are among the causes are at the root of the present economic crisis that the world, not only Greece, has been experiencing since at least 2008. Corruption and fraud are among the causes, and a serious, comprehensive anti-fraud and anti-corruption strategy is necessarily part of the solution of the economic crisis and a necessary tool for economic growth and development. This is the reality. When I'm saying that it is at the root of one of the main causes of the present economic crisis, just let me mention to this audience the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy in 2008 in the United States, the biggest ever bankruptcy in the United States, which triggered the financial crisis where we are still in. It has resulted to be a massive, a bankruptcy which has been resulted from a massive account manipulation, the result of an accounting fraud. And in brackets also, it has been a blatant failure of the certifying agency. And we are still in this situation. And when I have to mention Greece, how can we think that there is, how can we be surprised that Greece in such a difficult economic situation since years, when in 2012 the most, let's say, reliable estimates tell us that in 2012 roughly 25% of the Greek GDP was the result of a shadow economy, of underground economy. When we have data that tells us that in 2011, these are data which come from the former head of the Greek SDOE, so financial police. Greece was able in 2011 to collect only 20% of the fines imposed for tax evasion. 40% of them, of the fines, were written off, and the other 40% of the fines were retained by the officials which were in charge to collect them for the state. Can we be surprised that we, as such a country where this happens, is in an economic crisis situation? Can we be surprised that there is an economic crisis if even the state budget is claimed in the past years, I'm referring to the, let's say, recent past, to have been falsified, to have been not correct? So that's why I think I can say, just in a few examples, that fraud and corruption are part of the reasons, if not the most important part of the reasons of an economic crisis. If this is so, then we have to imagine solutions together which address these causes, or else if we stay in the economic, purely in the economic and financial field in finding solution, we will not get out of it. So there is no real sustainable economic development, and this is a rule which applies to Greece and to every country, if the public funds are diverted, are distracted, if the public investments are distracted from their goals, from where they have to be spent, and they go in the wrong pocket, they even feed corruption. And this is the reality, or at least partially, but a too much significant part of the public funds in Europe are diverted, are not going to their aim, and are even feeding corruption or crime, even organized crime. If the European funds, which are key for development, economic development, growth, creation of jobs, well, European funds which are the key element, the key instrument of the European Union solidarity, actually of the European Union as such, the redistribution of wealth, of financial means, is mainly constituted of the European funds. If these European funds are misspent or are a result of corruption, goes in illicit enrichment, even the message, even the existence of the European Union itself is at risk. If the shadow economy is so important, and there is no sign that the shadow economy is decreasing, at least in Greece, as far as I know, you will tell me. We cannot think about economic development. If the tax collection is not the way for redistributing richness within a country, but it's a tool for enrichment of the officials, there is no hope. We can do whatever, you can do whatever you want about financial economic tools. You can get more support from the European Union, but you will not be out of the problem. If the healthcare system is consistently affected by petty corruption, as it is, I'm afraid, in Greece, and also by large-scale corruption, is an opportunity of illicit enrichment on a large-scale basis, I'm afraid that there is even a problem of public acceptance of, is more than a political problem for a party or for a government, of public acceptance of economic measures. Trust, you can teach me on this, is key in a country, in a community, also for the economy, for economic growth. Trust from business community for doing investment, for creating an environment which is business friendly. Trust is necessary from other countries from the EU countries, for the reasons I just said, that the EU funds which reach a country come from the taxpayers of 28 other countries, or 27 other countries. And if there is the perception or the lack of trust of the other countries, taxpayers, that the funds are spent correctly, if there is lack of trust in this, the risk, the very concrete risk that we are already facing is that the other countries' public opinion are less keen to redistribute their richness to countries which are meant, or they have the image, to misspend these funds. And this is part of the polemic, of the also very interested one, very nationalistic one, very populistic one, polemic which is already in the European Union. So we have to create trust, trust from the business community, from other countries' public opinion, but also from your own public opinion, or else the acceptance of harsh economic measures will be less and less and less. Whilst if there is trust in the willingness and in the effectiveness of anti-corruption and anti-fraud measures, if there is trust that there is no illicit enrichment with public money by public officials, by public authorities, if there is this trust, also harsh economic measures which are necessary or might be necessary can be accepted. So where is Greece? If I may give you some data that you maybe already know, but it's good to remember. Where is Greece to this regard? There are very recent studies, researches of Eurobarometer, polls actually, which, so I'm referring to the end of 2015. 96% of the Greek population think corruption is widespread in their own country. This is the record in the European Union polls, which have been done in 28 countries. The average in the European Union is not that encouraging, is 76% of the population thinking that the corruption is widespread in their own country. But Greece is at the non-enviable situation of 96. So actually EU is now 21%, I'm sorry. It was 27% in 2014. Anyway, business community. 74% of the business community in Greece, you are in a way the business community. I don't know if you have been reached by the telephone calls of the pollsters, probably not, but anyway, the result of this poll says that, of Eurobarometer, says that corruption is a very serious problem for your company when doing business in Greece. 74%. European average of the same poll is 40%. So here there is a problem which affects directly the economy. Finally, a study, this is not Eurobarometer, in 2013, so recent but not very recent, says in the business community of Greece says that they think that in the 76% of cases, corruption is widespread in national public procurement. The public procurement are those which are the main tool for spending public wealth. Whilst at the local level in Greece, it is meant by this poll in the business domain that 94% of the public procurement done at the local level in Greece are affected by corruption. This is the opinion of the business community. On this basis, how do you think there can be any possibility of trust, any possibility of economic recovery and development? So, what can be done? What should be done? because everybody agrees, normally when I speak, but I told you I speak to the converted already, so there is not even satisfaction in the speech. Everybody says, yes, fight corruption. We do it. Well, which is to some extent true. It's difficult. It's more difficult in the anti-corruption and anti-fraud to set benchmarks, like in the economy. Now, in the economy, we have the 3%, 2% growth or not growth, the proportion with the debt. They are meant by some to be stupid, but at least they are verifiable. We don't have such, or at least we have not yet developed or not yet used similar benchmark indicators for anti-corruption. But we should, and they should be equally important like the other ones, like the economic ones, because there is no such a distinction, and both are equally necessary. So let me say something very quickly on what should be done. I just focus on very few issues. Okay, there must be, first of all, national and European actions at the same time. Not the same actions, there are different responsibilities, but there must be coordinated, shared, and in some cases joint actions. Both levels have different responsibilities, but both levels, European and national, have the same interest. There is a common interest, and there is a virtuous, let's say, situation, differently maybe from when from the European level, they tell the national level, you have to spend less, you have to, this is something conflicting interest. In this case, we have a virtuous situation where there is a common interest, common tools, synergies and common actions. At the national level, well, you know where the problems are. Tax collection in Greece, now I'm referring to Greece. Healthcare system, transparency and strong supervision of the financing of the political parties and their relations with the bank system. And I'm talking of economy, I'm not talking about politics, I'm not even interested. Procurement system. I'm reading the EU report of 2014, which is maybe wrongly called Anti-Corruption EU report of 2014, done by the European Commission, but it's more than an anti-corruption report. Okay, these are the fields to be tackled. We know that it is difficult then to do it. We know that it takes time, and the results come in years. So you have also to set a priority. So let me tell you what I think is a priority and what I think is something you can get quite soon and very much needed. The priority is to deliver tangible results of a change of course of action. So what results I'm referring to? The results of detection and prosecution, systematic detection, systematic or at least not casual, not random detection, not random prosecution of cases of corruption. They exist if 96% of the population, 76% of the businessmen say that the procurement are marked by. Where are the detections and where are the consequent actions taken? If this happens, and this can happen rather in reasonable times, then the course of action will change. A big message will be sent to the criminals, but also to the honest people. The trust will increase. The indicators of trust will reverse. So this is where I would put the main emphasis for a short-term result. I'm not one who thinks that everything is solved by investigation and prosecution. I'm not. But this is what is needed now to change the situation in Greece, at least to give a strong signal to revert the course. And let me mention only one thing which should be done and I hope will be done, at the European level, which has an impact also on national level. I just choose one because it's of the actuality of these days, and it's, let's say, maybe you might think an unusual one. Well, it's the limitation of the circulation of cash. It's not a very popular issue. I will not dwell much on it because I think I've spoken already too much. Limitation of cash. Cash is the king in the illicit market. This is the title, so this you cannot blame me, the title of research of Europol of the last year, which is called Cash is the King. Well, it's also in the experience of any of us. I mean, I don't know how much you have in your wallet and do not want to know in this very moment, but I don't think it's much more than 500 euro. But we in Europe, as you might know, we have the note of 500 euro. You think they are very few because probably you have not seen that many. I personally, I don't know if I had any in my pocket once, but the 500 euro notes are very, I have the data, but I spare you the data, are very much printed. But I have some data, so I will tell you, they are interesting. Some very, very few data. They are printed very, very much by the national banks. And they are used very much. Not possibly, probably by you, but if they are printed very much, they are also used very much. And I will tell you who prints them more and who used them more. If I find the page, I will tell you. Ecco qua. Luxembourg. I come to Germany also. I have two countries. Luxembourg amounts for the 0.2% of the population of the Eurozone. We are not talking about European Union, Eurozone now, because those who use the euro. And they amount, so okay, they print euro notes for 87 billions, but any kind of notes. But the vast majority of the 87 billion of notes printed by the Luxembourg Central Bank are 500 and 200 notes. The vast majority of them accounts, so Luxembourg, with the 0.2% of population, accounts for the 15% of the total issuance of 500 euro notes. And the 30% of the Eurozone issuance of 200 euro bill in the Eurozone, with the 0.2 of population. You know that there is a rule, you know, because you are travelers, that tells you, imposes all of us to report to the border, to the customs, any exportation of cash in amounts more than 10,000 euro. 10,000 euro, yes, out of the European Union. You know that there are very few of these reports, kind of in hundreds in a year. And very few, I mean, you can count them on the fingers of your hand, from Luxembourg. Where are all these cash going? There is a study of the Bundesbank. I'm quoting the Bundesbank, which says that between 2002 and 2009, over the 70% of the volume of the 500 euro notes printed, issued by the Bundesbank, went overseas. So 70% of these notes went out of Germany, but almost 50% of these 500 euro notes went to Russia. Arrived to Russia. Probably they arrived through human being traffickers, smugglers, drug dealers. So where this banknote The 500 euro banknote is called, it's in the underworld, it's called the Bin Laden banknote. Why? And it's often traded in the illicit market over its own value. Why? Well, have you ever asked yourself why the United States, the #1 economy in the world, has the biggest bill? It's $100, which is more than 5 times less, and they live happily. Because it's a facilitator, the 500 note, facilitator of illicit crime, of financial crimes, of tax evasion, of drug smuggling, of human traffickers, because you can hoard your money, your richness, out of the bank system without, and you can do commerce, illicit commerce, and corruption, of course, without having to explain the origin, without traceability, without transparency. That's why the law enforcement community to which I belong is making a case to eliminate this note and also to lower the printing of the 200 euro note. There is no impact on the everyday life of the normal citizens, but it will make it harder for for criminals of any kind, and it will not harm the economy. On the contrary, the economy will benefit. This has to be accompanied, let me just add the title of another issue, by a better bank transparency, that is national database of bank accounts. This is a recommendation of the European Union. Only 8 member states have done it so far. Actually, 7.5. One will implement. Every member state should have a national data bank if our friends of data protection will allow us. But okay. He doesn't listen better, so let's, because we are often in a, let's say, heated dialogue, and the national data bank of the bank account have to be, let's say, interlinked among the member states. It's unthinkable that we law enforcers, investigators, cannot or can only with huge difficulties make an investigation which is a trans-border investigation. But you know something in Greece. I read some newspapers, although my Greek is very, very bad, on bank accounts abroad, and the non-transparency of bank account abroad where illicit richness, or let's say, at least from the tax evasion point of view, had been stored. It's unthinkable that the borders, we talked about borders today, the borders in Europe, even in the Schengen zone, are only valid for us, because we cannot do an investigation. We have to stop to the border, we have to ask the others to do the job for us, whilst for the legal economy and for the criminals there are no borders. So at least the data bank on bank accounts in each member state and linked, not that one has to, at least the borders, eliminates the borders also for the law enforcers. This would be a very good economic growth measure as well. Thank you very much.